Thanks for joining us. Again, the Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring 3 different debates tonight. You're going to be introduced to the 7 candidates running for the City Commission. My name is Kirk Kirkpatrick, and on behalf of the Chamber, we're happy to have you here watching on Cable 75, and also those of you listening on WVJS Radio. We want to thank them. So let's get right to the debate. Here's the format that we will be using tonight. There'll be opening remarks from each candidate, and we'll give those 2 minutes each. Then during the question and answer session, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question presented by myself, and we anticipate that the entire forum will be over by 7:30 easily. Now, after the final question round, we'll have closing remarks presented by each of the 7 candidates, and they will be limited to 1 minute each. Now, the seating order of the candidates, if you're looking now from a different camera angle, were chosen randomly prior to the debate, and I will rotate our opening remarks, the questions, and the closing remarks among the 7 candidates, so each of them has a fair chance at being first and then replying last. The questions, by the way, were submitted by you, the general public, along with Chamber of Commerce members over the past several weeks, and then those questions actually went to the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce Advocacy Committee. This committee fine-tuned, make sure that the questions were general enough that all could be answered and covered the widest variety of topics possible. So we want to thank you for sending in the questions, and we also want to thank the Advocacy Committee for helping put them in order. So if you would, ladies and gentlemen, here in the audience, would you please join me in welcoming our 7 candidates for the Owensboro City Commission. We're going to begin with short bios that were sent in to us by each of the candidates, and we'll start on our far left, City Commissioner Pam Smith Wright. Pam Smith Wright is an Owensboro native. She's a graduate of Owensboro High School, Owensboro Technical College, and Leadership Owensboro. Pam has been involved with many organizations, including she currently president of Hospice and was Owensboro's first woman mayor pro tem. Pam has served 2 terms on the City Commission and looks forward to continuing her position. Pam Smith Wright. City Commissioner Bob Glenn. Commissioner Glenn was elected to the City Commission in 2012. Glenn serves on a number of community boards and is the city's representative to the Mayor's Committee on Business Development. Dr. Glenn is a professor of communication at Owensboro Community College. He and his wife, Holly, have 2 college-age children, Bobby and Caitlin. City Commissioner Bob Glenn. Candidate James Terry Stinson. Terry Stinson was born and raised in Owensboro. He's a 1969 graduate from Owensboro High School and holds both a Bachelor and Master's of Science degree in education. He served in the U.S. Air Force and has served as a public school teacher and as a substance abuse prevention specialist. He and his wife Phyllis have 3 daughters and 1 perfect grandson. Terry Stinson. Terry, thanks. Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley. Debbie was born and raised in Owensboro. She's a graduate of Davis County High School and Western Kentucky University. She owned real estate brokerage, management, and investment companies for over 38 years. A longtime community volunteer, she currently serves as Owensboro's Mayor Pro Tem and the Owensboro Health System Board Chair. Deborah Nunley. Reggie Helm is our next candidate. Reggie is the father of 2 daughters. He has 30 years experience in manufacturing and ran a successful business for 20 years. He's a lifetime member of both the International Bluegrass Music Association and Museum. Reggie has an associate's degree in telecommunications and is a level 1 yoga instructor. Reggie Helm. City Commissioner Jeff Sanford. Jeff is serving his second term as Owensboro City Commissioner. He brings with him 21 years of experience in running small businesses. Jeff is the president of Scoreboard Publishing, Inc., and currently serves on several local boards. He's been very active in coaching youth sports throughout the years. Mr. Sanford and his family are members of the St. Joe's and Paul Catholic Church. City Commissioner Jeff Sanford. And our final candidate, Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin is an Owensboro, Kentucky native. He attended Owensboro High School and is also a Vietnam veteran. Glad to have Mr. Martin here. Thank you, Mr. Martin. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin with opening remarks. These are unscripted comments from us, and we'll begin with each of you have 2 minutes, and we'll begin with City Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright. Pam?
Thank you, Kirk. First, I want to say that I'm past president of hospice, so I didn't want that to be wrong. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming this evening. First, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this forum and for the people who came out tonight and those of you who are watching on TV. For the past 4 years, I've watched the renewal of my hometown. I cannot remember our city being this busy in recent years, and part of this has been very rewarding for me as your city commissioner. Our city has grown by leaps and bounds from the riverfront to Mechanicsville, from Old Germantown to the retention basins, and from becoming an all-America city to being named one of the top best places to live in America. Along with being the talk of our state, we're also the talk of our nation. Our city has done well. I ask you to dream along with me at what Owensboro can be as we continue in our progress. My door is always open, so I ask that you will continue to let me serve as your city commission and your voice here in City Hall. Let's keep Owensboro the great place that it is, and I ask for your support on November the 4th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now, City Commissioner Bob Glenn, opening remarks.
Good evening and welcome to everybody, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this wonderful event where we get to hear each person and get their views on the issues. 2 years ago, I ran for City Commission, and I made 4 simple commitments that I believe I've kept. The first was to have an open door and be available. Many of you have gotten my phone number. It's 270-929-7471. You have a problem? I can't guarantee a solution, but I can guarantee an answer, and I have for hundreds of my constituents. The second is that we need to develop the community beyond downtown. Downtown's great. I love the convention center. I love Smothers Park, but there's more to our community and growing it than just downtown. And I've supported projects like our flood control basins that we're developing, the tennis center, which is a great act of collaboration between the city school system, the county, the city, and the tennis association, and many other projects where we're getting value for our community in every neighborhood. Mechanicsville and Germantown, the development projects that Keith Free has shepherded are wonderful projects that have added great benefit and beauty to formerly distressed and less regarded areas of our community. The third thing that I've done is that I have essentially said that it's important to be fiscally responsible. And at every turn, there's been an opportunity to save money. Every opportunity there has been a turn to look at the cost of projects we're looking at. I've questioned them. I've taken the time to be educated and ready to lead on day one. I was very fortunate, like Pam, that I was a neighborhood alliance chair. So I was pretty up to snuff on what was going on with city government before I arrived here. And the fourth and final thing is to listen. Because the strength, the greatest power we have in this community is our citizens. It's you sitting out there. We don't get any of this done without collaborating and working together as a team and as one community. And if you give me an opportunity on November 4th, I hope to continue working for you just as hard as I did in the first term. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Third opening remarks, Terry Stinson.
Thank you, Kirk. I too want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event this evening. I want to thank everyone who are present here this evening, those that are listening on the radio and those of me watching on cable TV. You know, this is my first attempt at seeking office, and during this campaign I went around the community and talked to a lot of people. Many of them are excited about what's happening in our community with the downtown development and economic development and all the things that are going on, and a lot of them see a bright future for Owensboro. However, I've run across many who also don't see it that way. I've talked to many who feel that the attention's been focused too much on the downtown area, that somehow there are areas in Owensboro that have been neglected for decades, and they're concerned about that. Many believe that their elected officials have lost disconnect or are disconnected from them. They're not listening to them on many issues, and as a result, they feel this strong disconnect with city government. I share some of these beliefs. Yeah, I'm excited about the things that's happening in this community because, believe me, after 30 years gone, I came back 15 years ago, I was excited to see all these things. But I also see some things that are not going on. I do believe there is a disconnect, and it's not just over economic development, but it's other issues, social issues such as homelessness, substance abuse, other issues that face our community on a daily basis. And that's why I'm running for city commissioner. Because of this disconnect, I feel it's my obligation to want to do something. In 15 days, we're going to vote or exercise our right to vote. I would like for everyone here to listen tonight to each of the candidates, make your decision, and pick those you feel will best serve this community. You need to vote. Our nation's history has proven we sacrificed too much not to. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley with the opening remarks.
It's been an honor to serve you these past 2 years. I've learned a lot. I did bring a lot to the table with me as board chair of the hospital, as past chair of the Chamber of Commerce, Impact 100 Owensboro, the WKU Advisory Board, and of course serving as your Mayor Pro Tem. I've had major leadership roles in the real players in the areas of health, business, education, nonprofit, and government. I feel that these are exciting times for many of the organizations in those areas. For example, Owensboro Health System. We're looking to grow beyond our 11-county area. We are in the top 2% of hospitals in the nation, and we want to become even better. Our Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce attended their year of the planning summit, and we're wanting to get ahead of the world changes as they will affect Owensboro. Changes in the areas of transportation, energy, education, and health. Owensboro Community Technical College. They're in the process of major fundraising for trying to raise several $1 million for non-traditional students in a non-traditional education time. Our government has been involved in with all of these organizations, and I want to continue to stay involved and not just expand in the areas of downtown. Our downtown is, I'm very pleased with what we're doing, and I think we'll continue that growth, but we're also looking out toward the 54 corridor, looking at some major projects in commercial and residential. We're looking at Triplet Street improvement, and of course we've had been involved in major improvement in the neighborhoods throughout the community. My involvement in all of these areas which affect your quality of life equip me to be more educated, interactive, responsive to the needs that arise as a city leader. We've accomplished a lot in these past 2 years. Much more is there to do. We have become a bold, dynamic community, and that requires bold, dynamic leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nunley. Now, our next opening statements, Reggie Helm.
Buenos días, amigos. Un nombre Reggie Helm. Yo estoy postulando para comisionado for de Owensboro. Me gustaría tener su voto. Muchas gracias. Friends, to my bilingual friends, and I hope I didn't mess that up too bad, but yo estoy aprendiendo Espanol poco, at least I try. You know, I'm running for 4 reasons. One reason is the homeless and the financial situation of a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people in this town realize how bad it really is. I see it every day. I have friends that tell me sad stories, guys that own consignment shops tell me these heartbreaking stories. And so that's one reason why I'm running. I'm concerned about my fellow citizens. We need to take care of our own first. Second, we've made a lot of progress in this town. We're really rocking. We got some beautiful buildings, but we're going to have to pay for these babies. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to have to make this town a town destination. We have been obligated to do that. And I have experience in that. I have 15 years affiliated with Executive Ed. I've got 25 years involved as a professional in the bluegrass system. And I need to get my feet in the door. I want to put on my dancing shoes to make this place rock. And we can do that, but we've got to do it. We've got to make it a town of destination, or our purse strings are really going to hurt. Third is people are worried about going away from the city management government to a mayor-electoral government. Only a handful of people are getting heard, and the masses are not. People are worried about that. And finally, I'm ashamed of myself as a parent for letting my generation, my children's generation, be the first generation that won't better themselves. And what does that say for us? So I'm going to show them at least I try.
Thank you, Mr. Helm. Opening statement by City Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm glad to see so many faces out there, and involvement is one thing I've been talking about a lot lately. Is if you want something done, you have to get involved, and you have to say something. And I've been a commissioner for 2 terms, and what I've done is I pretty much did what I said I was going to do. And I've stuck to my principles, and I've stuck to my guns. You know, I didn't write anything elaborate up here to tell you tonight in my opening statement, but if you follow me or if you follow the paper, you may know a little bit about me and how I vote. And I stick to my principles, and I think that's a very, very important thing. When you get up here is stick to your principles, stick to what you believe. And if you do those things, you'll be successful. One of the most unpopular things to say as a politician is no. It's easy to say yes to everything. Then everybody likes you because everybody's got what they want and they ask you for it. But, you know, sometimes you have to be an adult in the room and you have to say no because it just makes good common sense. And that's what I'm running on. I'm running on a proven record of proven fiscal responsibility. Proven. It is proven, and you should know that if you keep up. It's proven. I've been involved in bringing private enterprise to town. I've been proven to vote independently. Sometimes, you know, you can get pressured and feel pressured up here to vote a certain way, but you know, it takes a backbone sometimes to sit up here and be outvoted sometimes. But if you stick to your principles and you listen to the people like I have, I think you'll do a good job. And I think I've done a pretty good job listening to the people. And we have a great community. There's a lot going on. Can we improve? Of course. That's why I'm running, because of my business experience. And I talk to businesses every day. And that's where we need to go with private industry and private business and make our community stronger.
Thank you, Commissioner. And our final opening remarks, candidate Joseph Martin.
I want to thank everybody coming here today and hosting this forum. I'm Joseph Martin, Vietnam veteran, born and raised in Owensboro. I'm not a career politician, just a person trying to make a difference for the people in Owensboro. As a city commission, I'll be focused on economic development plan that will attract companies and tourists to Owensboro. I'm for accountability, efficiency, and transparency in city government. I want to focus on the whole city, not just the city, not just downtown. Owensboro families is Owensboro future. Preserving our wildlife means protecting our family values and holding our elected leaders accountable for their performance, not their promises. Changes need to be made. City government isn't working. What works in the past isn't working now. I'm committed to solving and focus on efficiency and transparent city government. A plan that relies on spending cuts and be more efficient. I have the ability to listen to all sides of issues and make decisions in the best interest of the community. We need less regulation and red tape and be business friendly for Owensboro. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you. And for those just joining us, you're listening to, on WVJS, you're listening to a live broadcast coming to you from the City Chambers, the 7 candidates for City Commission. Our first question, based on our rotating cycle, will be going to Mr. City Commissioner Bob Glenn. The first question, again, these were all submitted by the public and then went through the Advocacy Committee of the Chamber. Question number 1. Why are you interested in seeking this office, and what skills and experience would you bring to the City Commission? And we'll begin 2 minutes with each candidate with City Commissioner Bob Glenn.
Well, as I said earlier, the greatest experience I've had is being involved with the Neighborhood Alliance program. And I'd encourage citizens out there to get involved in your local Neighborhood Alliance. There's 13 of them. It's a great opportunity to make an impact without necessarily going to City Hall. But I did take a step further and run for City Commission. And I think the most important thing I bring to it is I basically pay attention to what's going on. I've been out in the community, I've been a presence, I've attended Neighborhood Alliance meetings, I've gotten together with the United Way in a variety of social and nonprofit groups in our community. I've toured our city operations, sanitation, and police to find out how they worked early in my tenure. And the reason I'm running is basically 2 things. Number 1, our city is on the cusp of an incredible transformation. We're just partly through that transformation. This is a golden time to live in Owensboro. But I grew up in a lifestyle, growing up as a young person, in humble means, and I never forget the fact that it's always a tale of 2 cities. It's always a tale of 2 cities. There are always people in need. There are always people who need help and assistance, and we can always do better. There's no doubt that we hope for the best and we cope with the rest. But I never want to see Owensboro be second best. And the bottom line is I believe I have the experience, I listen, I'm a hard worker, and I care deeply about this community, and I think that's radiated over my 2 years of service to the City Commission. What do I want to do beyond this? I want to get a Safe Ride initiative developed to get drunk drivers off our roads. I want to develop a trauma-based initiative so we have counselors available for people who are hit by a trauma, such as the death of a loved one. Many cities have this. It's a great program. It's an award-winning program in several cities. I want to see us continue to develop our park system beyond downtown. And most importantly, do this all in a fiscally responsible manner. We're on a great pathway. We need to continue it, but we all need to be on board to accomplish those tasks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Terry Stinson.
I left this community in June of 1969, 3 weeks out of high school. Went in the United States Air Force, spent 16 years there, was medically discharged because of an injury I'd received. I then became a school teacher, went back to school, and I taught public school in Alabama for about 10 years. Then I had the opportunity in January of 1999 to come back to Owensboro and teach in the system here. When I came back, I was really thrilled because I missed my hometown. But I was also shocked at what I saw at that time, a ghost of a downtown. Places, buildings that used to be here no longer here. It took me a while to get adjusted to what Owensboro was. I saw everything going south and east, and nothing within the city. But thankfully, in the last 6 years, we've had a city government that has decided to stand up and do something about at least the downtown area. As I said earlier, I'm proud of downtown. I'm proud of the accomplishments going on. I'm glad that all this is going on. But I'm still disillusioned with what I see in our community. When I was out campaigning, I went to my own neighborhood. One of the heartbreaking things I saw most was that every other house in my community I grew up in was boarded up. And that didn't happen overnight. It happened after decades and decades and decades of the city not wanting to do anything. It's too late for that. But we have communities right now that if we continue in this path, in 30 years, they're going to look just like the ones I see now. I'm running for city commissioner because I think I can make a difference, because I've been blessed to have the life experiences of being what I've learned in the Air Force, what I learned as a public school teacher, and what I learned in substance abuse. And there are people in this community who are not being heard. I know it's easy to see buildings and say, yeah, we're doing great, but there's a lot of hidden things that we don't see. And that's what I want to help alleviate, is by bringing a voice to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stinson. Question number 1, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley.
Well, I think there are two things that have caused me to be where I am today. One of those is the fact that I've sold this community, marketed this community as a realtor for almost 40 years, I hate to admit. The other is that during most of that time, I was actively involved in the community due to the encouragement of our former chair of the chamber, Dave Atkinson, who did a lot for this community and is now promoting the state of Kentucky. So combined with my real estate background, where I marketed the community, primarily worked with relocating people here. And I began to see what we weren't seeing as natives of Owensboro. They would come into our community and witness a low cost of living, a low crime rate, a beautiful community, a community where we could actually drink the water out of the faucet, easy accessibility to every place, just a lot of things that we did not appreciate. In working with the volunteer organizations, as I said before, I've run the gamut. I was the token woman on every board in this community for almost 4 decades. So I think those two things hit me during a transformational period in my life about 5 years ago. And a couple years after that, my family encouraged me, and one of them sitting out there encouraged me to do something different and to get into politics. It all seemed to be a good fit for me. So I'm taking those experiences from real estate and from volunteering in this community to try to make a difference for us and for our children.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley. Reggie Helm.
Well, the reason why I'm interested is, got some great stuff going on, but we've got to take this to the next level. We are in the middle of nowhere. Like in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? We're 3 weeks from nowhere. And we have to market people here to get them here. And if you'll just Google 10 miles out, 50 miles out of Owensboro, you're going to see Livermore, Rockport, et cetera, low-income areas. When I worked at the executive end, we had to go reach way out to get people. You've got competition. If you come on out a little further, you're going to see Evansville, Louisville, Bowling Green. They all got fine arts centers. They all got casinos. It's not like it was when the Executive Inn was built. We've got competition in its own town, River Park. I've seen that happen there. River Park got built. Executive Inn lost a lot of business to River Park. John Bates comes in, builds it up. He takes the business back. The River Park suffers. That's reality. But I have experience in marketing that. I know what it's cost. We lost $50,000 a month just in marketing, but, to get people to come here. But I know the bluegrass music is a key to this. It's not the main thing, but we're all going to have to be bluegrass oriented. I mean, every business is going to have to live and breathe bluegrass to get him to come here. Right now, the IBMA is in change, and we have a real opportunity of getting someone in that association here in Owensboro. And if we do, we can really prosper in the bluegrass industry. As a lifetime member of the association and the museum, I know what that music can do. You've seen it with the ROMP, you've seen it with the IBMA. And that's why I'm interested. I can help take this next level.
Thank you, Mr. Helm. Those just joining us on radio, the question on the floor is, why are you interested in seeking this office, and what skills and experience would you bring to the City Commission? And our next speaker in a row is Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Yes, Kirk. Why am I interested in seeking office? Basically, I'm seeking office because we have done a lot of great things in this city. I mean, you can look downtown, around town. There's been investment everywhere, but it's time to hold the spending down. I can go to a recent vote that we had. It was on a boat dock study. I'm not going to finance any more projects. That was $600,000 that I didn't think we needed to spend. It's not because I don't like boaters, got one myself, and have a boat dock, things like that. And my experience, the reason why is because I'm in private business and I understand cash flows, bonding, debt, stuff like that, that you can only spend so much, but you have to have enough revenue to pay for it. So we need to understand those things, and I do. And I think that's what I bring to the table, is understanding how business works. Now, through 4 years of being here, how government works. And we just need to take our foot off the gas pedal a little bit and get the private sector going and let them loose, let them go, and then Katie, bar the door, because we're going to be in great shape. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeff Sanford. Next candidate, Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin?
Yes, I'm running for, I don't see any improvement in the last, I don't know, 10 years. So I'm running to my knowledge. You know, you can have a lot of degrees, a lot of go to school here and there, but if you don't use what you know for the people, it wastes. And I believe I understand the people, because you got to know, a lot of people, when they get in office, they forgot where they came from. And one thing, you know, you're out here working, you're trying to make it, ends meet, and you can't make it, and the city should help out. It should be better paying jobs, should be a lot more business coming in, create more stuff coming in Owensboro. I believe, I know the people a little bit better. A lot of people forget what they here for. Thank you.
Mr. Martin? And the final candidate with this question, City Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright. Ms. Wright?
Thank you. The reason that I'm interested in being reelected is because I've served on boards and commissions in this community for years. And I'm a lifelong resident here, and I was the president of the Western Shawnee Neighborhood Alliance from its inception. And I've always liked being a part of the community that I live in. And I see so many things that can be done, that we need to do, and everybody's harping on downtown. It's not downtown. Downtown's not the only thing that we have done as a city commission. I mean, there are so many things. All you have to do is get out of your house, get in your car, and drive this community. If you go to the Mechanicsville area and look at what has transpired down there, it looks like a whole different city. So, you know, I also feel that my business background, I've been in business for over 40 years. I've owned my own business. I'm a small business person. But I know that, you know, you can't overspend just like you can in your house. You have to pay bills and whatever. So you need to be responsible for those kind of things. And I think that me being here will bring a different view from other views. And as Joseph said, no, I haven't forgotten where I came from. I'm still here. I'm still here, and this is where I came from, and this is where I'd like to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright. Our second question, we'll start with Mr. Stenson, Terry Stenson. The question is, what specific actions would you recommend and champion to help existing businesses in our community?
Well, one of the things I noticed when I came back too was small businesses that would open up and 6 months later be closed, and those buildings would be empty for a long time, and then another business would come along later, and then 6 months later it would close as well. When I left here in '69, there were 2 General Electric plants, there was a steel mill, there was I think 3 distilleries, there were all kinds of different jobs here. Of course, those things have gone away as with the rest of the country, and Owensboro has fallen into the same pattern as the rest of the world. All our manufacturing jobs, those are gone. They're never going to come back. They're overseas. They're gone. So we have to look towards things such as tourism, which is why we have the development that's going on here. But what concerns me the most is small business. Those small business in operation now who've been here for a while, they exist. But there are too many of them that try to open up who end up closing down very quickly. I've talked to some of these owners who always list the same thing. First thing is utilities. That kills them. The second thing is the lease of the building. because the building sits for so long that the owner, hasn't had anybody in there for 2 or 3 years, so he tries to make it up by charging a higher lease for it. I think that one thing that needs to be looked at by our city commission is looking at these small businesses. I think of the one Cambodian couple who owned that donut shop down on the west side of town. I got to know them pretty well because it's obvious I may eat some donuts, but I got to know them because I spent some time in Cambodia. I spent some time over there and when we weren't supposed to be there, and met some of these people. And now they have a place over in Rockport, but they too fell victim to that. And there's many others. So I'd like to see our city government try to look at small business to keep them in operation.
Thank you, Mr. Stinson. Now, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley.
Yes, I think last time I ran, I talked quite a bit about marketing our community on a state and national level to try to attract more businesses from outside the community in. And I really want to applaud our Economic Development Commission. I think they do a great job. They're movers and shakers, and they think outside of the box, and they get it that this world is changing, and we need to get on board and change with them. But I have to say that this city commission, this city has done much in the past, 2 years that we've been involved with helping local business expand. You take U.S. Bank. I mean, they did a groundbreaking on a new building, and that's new jobs here. It's making them the largest private employer in this community. You look at the hospital. It's the largest private nonprofit organization that just moved in last June and is growing and expecting to grow far beyond the borders of this community. You look at the business that's been brought in downtown through the improvement of the amenities that our federal dollars and our community dollars have invested. It's difficult to get people to invest in your community if we as a community, we as a taxpayer, are not willing to invest. We said we were, and what did that translate into? New business downtown. The same type of dynamic is happening out on Highway 54. We just toured a location out on 54, off 54 between Pleasant Valley, where we're looking at, I think, several hundred acres for commercial, multifamily residential expansion. So that area is going to boom. Now, I predict that our Triplet Street area will be in that mode in another year. So I think we're doing what we promised and what the citizens of Owensboro want us to do in regards to business.
Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley, thank you. Next candidate, Reggie Helm.
Well, I was in manufacturing for 30 years, and I lost my job to Mexico. And so I understand what it's like. It's hard to compete with 28 cents and no regulation. And so a lot of the jobs we're getting are $9, $10, $11, but it's a $20, $24 an hour world out there. And I see people with fixed incomes and people who are working 2 jobs. And it's not just 1 or 2, it's many. And so higher and paying jobs are hard to get. Yeah, U.S. Bank is a wonderful thing, but they want you to get in debt, and they want to foreclose on your house. And the hospital is about, because we're all out of shape and we're unhealthy, So we really need something to get people in shape. I'm all for incentives, and I'm all for helping this community grow. But, if you're going to be in the tourism business, let's go back to Bluegrass, because that's all I know, is you got to bring the industries in here. I mean, record companies and stuff like that, and not just Ricky Skaggs and Old Crow Medici, but create the Ricky Skaggs and Old Crow Medici. Create the next, don't just play Rolling Your Sweet Baby's Arm, have the next hit come out of this town. That's what you're going to have to do. I've seen it all over the country. It can be done, but you got to change the way your attitude is, and you got to make it work, and that's the way I'm looking at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helm. City Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
I like this question because I'm around businesses all the time, and not every small business is going to make it. It's tough to be in small business. It's hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes you got to persevere through the good, the bad, the ugly, and I've been there. And what actions would I recommend? Education. And I'll tell you, there's one area, it's called skilled labor, that there's a shortage of nationwide. And not every kid is, college is not for every kid. But I will tell you, welders, electricians, and there's all kinds of skilled trade out there that if these kids, and we can get them going in those directions, they're going to make those $20 an hour, $40 an hour range. And I think that's where we need to be heading. And I think Nick Brake and some of those guys at Owensboro Public Schools, they recognize that. The Center for Business and Research, I do business over there with some people, and 3 or 4 years ago, it was quiet. It's not quiet anymore. So there is some things happening here. And, you're not every business is going to pay you 20 to 40, but we'll take the U.S. banks. We need a good mixture of everything. And I think we're doing it. I think we're getting there. I see my time's running out. I just wanted to mention a couple things. We've got some small businesses doing great things. Look at Feta Pizza. They're already adding on. I mean, isn't that what we want? It's an existing business that's growing. We want more existing businesses to grow. It all works together. When we have higher paying jobs, it all works together, and they go out and spend money, and they grow our small businesses. So I am for education and pushing these kids into higher paying jobs.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeff Sanford. Those just joining us, again, the question on the floor is, what specific actions would you recommend and champion to help existing businesses in our community? Next candidate up is Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin.
Yes, one thing I would do, I would bring business, try to get business in here and give them a good tax break and get rid of most of the regulation, red tape, so they can come in here, because they set certain standards here, and most business cannot go that route. They gotta be flexible, but like I said, their standards are too high, so that maybe that's why most businesses don't come in here. And you can research things from other communities, see what they're doing. Maybe we're not doing what they're doing, and that's why we ain't getting no business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Next, City Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright.
I think we have to be realistic about the $20, $25 an hour jobs in Owensboro if we don't have the workforce that is ready to do those kind of jobs. And that's why we've partnered with OTCTC for that new program that they're going to have out there, is that we can train these people to be able to do these jobs that we're looking for. I think that the city has done a lot to try and step up what we can do to make this a place for people to want to come and work or open a business. We've had that review of the Owensboro Planning and Zoning to make them more people friendly, to make them more business friendly. So I think that's something that we've tried to do to make people want to come. But when there are small businesses that failed, I've had a restaurant, I've got had a beauty shop and a catering service. Sometimes you need a good business plan before you go into business. And I think that you need a mentor, you need someone to tell you or guide you before you just open a business because you think that's the thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Next, City Commissioner Bob Glenn.
I think the first thing you have to be able to do is show them the way to get here. And I was the only commissioner that attended the I-67 and I-69 highway conference in Madisonville. And I want to tell you, they have to be able to find you before they do business with you. The mayor's attempts to get I-67 built, you may disagree with many things he does. I stand shoulder to shoulder with him on that. That's the first way we grow our economy in Owensboro, Kentucky. Not just today, not just tomorrow, but on into the next decade. The second, as several of other folks have indicated, is we need workforce development. I teach at Owensboro Community and Technical College. We are blazing the trail with the Phase 2 Technology Center expansion. We will produce the jobs of tomorrow. We'll produce the welders, the high-tech manufacturers, the agri-tech specialists, the vet tech folks, the aviation manufacturing folks with that new program that's starting at the airport. The Owensboro Community College, the support we're going to give Owensboro Community and Technical College in the next week or two to fund that program along with Judge Mattingly and the county is absolutely instrumental, because the Chamber, for years, the #1 goal in our community was that Phase 2 expansion of the Technology Center. So that's really our first action, because that's cumulative. It's not just going to occur today and tomorrow. We're going to seek benefits and have benefits throughout. The other is that we need to encourage people that working with your hands, working a trade is a good thing. And I've worked with plumbers and pipe fitters, a local union, to get with Dr. Klauber, bring them together, and synergize those two programs. And they're providing training now for people who want to go into those trades. And that is going to employ people. The key here is the jobs are out there. The opportunities for entrepreneurial investment are out there. But the key to that is we have to work together. We have to have a good transportation system, a good education system, which we have the foundation for, and we need to push it. We have to put full energy into it, and that's what I do in a second term.
Thank you, Commissioner. For those of you just joining us on WVJS, we're coming to you live from the 4th floor of City Hall. This is the first of 3 debates that the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce is presenting for the community. Tonight, the 7 candidates running for City Commission. The next question, and we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley. Do you support the city's current position of requiring dividends from OMU and the Riverport Authority each year? And again, we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley.
Well, at this juncture, yes, as my voting record has shown that I feel comfortable with where we are with that. I think that as we progress over time, the dynamics with both those entities, the Riverport and the OMU, change. OMU have, we look, I think as the public, we see letters, we hear from people, and we just get a little bit of the information, and we're not really privy to the whole picture. It's frustrating to me as a city leader to hear criticism when you only have part of the story. And we're not able to reveal a lot of that because we're dealing and talking with entities who want anonymity at this point. I know we've, as a realtor who's worked with people who've moved into town, when we recruited our city or our hospital director, we interviewed 3. We were not able to give that information out because the other 2 fellows could lose their jobs. So when we interview and talk to companies who may be moving here, we really aren't privy to give that information out. But I can tell you this, I think there's some really good things in the works with the Riverport that for me could translate to a win-win-win-win. And I'm very excited about that. And that's what your commission's been working on. As far as OMU, I think there are some things down the pike that could make us more stable to where we would be, they would feel comfortable with that dividend, and I think our community would feel comfortable with the dividend. So I would just say, before you criticize, give us a little credit, because we are doing our homework, we are working, and we're trying to make it a win for everybody, including the taxpayers. That's the most important thing, because you're the ones we represent.
Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley, thank you. Next candidate, Reggie Helm.
Well, when you're not privy to all the information, you question. So when I see dividends being pulled and my rates go up, I question. I see our water plant that we're supposed to have 2 to cover, but now one of them is falling apart and we don't have enough to cover. So now we need money for that. And Mr. Stanley and the other gentleman that quit the board were frustrated because the money's being pulled away in other directions. You can't continue to steal from Peter to pay Paul. Eventually, Paul has no Peter and he can't get any. Well, that didn't sound right. But anyway, you're going to deplete your sources, and we're all going to have to pay the price in the long run. So I think some of that's questionable. Really is. I'd have to have more information to really see, but I question a lot of it. I'm done. After that, I'm done.
Thank you, Candidate Helm. Next up, City Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
The dividend situation. I'm okay with that. Let's get to the Riverport first. The Riverport, I think you can go overboard on the dividend because I believe the Riverport is one of our greatest assets. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you pull too much from them, they won't be able to reinvest in themselves. And between the Riverport and the airport, that is Owensboro's I-67. We don't have that yet, but that's our I-67. A lot of people would love to have our Riverport, and they don't. So that's one thing that we got to be careful with. Now, an OMU situation, when they went on the open market, I think that caused a few problems. And in my opinion, when you start gambling with the taxpayers' money, it's never a good idea. I cannot support that. I did not support that. I didn't think it was a good idea. Still don't today. And, some people come to me and say, hey, Jeff, isn't that just a tax? Or, well, there's so much revenue that has to come into the city one way or another for us to meet our bills. So whether it's through OMU or through taxes in a different way, we have to have the revenue that is committed to take care of all of our obligations. But that's pretty much how I feel on those two situations. Thank you.
Commissioner Jeff Sanford, thank you. Next up, candidate Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin.
Yeah, I'm really supportive of the dividend, but to a certain limit. It shouldn't affect the citizens of Owensboro when they do that. Because your OMU bill goes up, you got to pay school tax, you got to pay this, pay that, and it's hard for working families to make it on what they receive when they work. But I agree on you make a little bit. I can see anybody make a profit. They're not a killing, and that's what most places are doing. They're killing the people that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Again, if you just joined us, the question on the floor is, do you support the city's current position of requiring dividends from OMU and the Riverport Authority each year? Next candidate to speak is City Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright.
I went to the Riverport rope cutting the other night, and they were talking about how much better that they're doing, and that they had even given the city a raise, if you will, because they have this aluminum that's coming in now, and they've got these new things that they're doing at the Riverport. And so I don't have a problem with the city having those dividends, but with OMU, if you remember, I'm one of the ones that went against the price increase. And the reason for that was because everything that was kind of told to us, in my opinion, was based on, well, it might happen. But, they had this building that they said was falling apart, and they put a measure on it. And it had been on there for a long time, and it hadn't moved. So, it was just one of those things that if it's not broke, don't fix it. And so I had to vote no on that, on raising the rates for the community's sake, because I didn't feel that at that particular time we should do that. And I now see that they're still going to come back and ask for that rate increase anyway. But I really don't have a problem with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright. Next up, City Commissioner Bob Glenn.
Well, I think I'm going to adopt the Riverport first approach to answering the question, and that begins with the fact that I've been to the Riverport and met with every Riverport director from Ed Riney to Brian Wright. Back the day the column came out about the Riverport and don't sell the Riverport, I met with Brian. It was a great coincidence. We had a wonderful conversation. And what I will say to you is what I think Jeff has already said, and that is it is an incredible resource for this community. It's certainly not something we want to sell. It's certainly not something we want to hamstring with a ridiculously high type of prorated stipend that they would be made to pay. There's incredible capacity for growth in the Riverport in terms of employment, in terms of productivity, in terms of private governmental partnerships. So there's absolutely no doubt. A stipend, a reasonable one, absolutely, but one that hamstrings their ability to grow and evolve and develop, no. On OMU, I just want to first of all say I think Terry Nolte is doing a heck of a job. He entered that position in a terrible period of time in history of that utility. And I voted against the initial water rate increase, but we got together with them, we worked together, we were able to reduce residential rates by 30%, and we were still able to give OMU what they needed. Now, the key is they are going to have to eventually replace Plan A. That's just a fact. And we have taken the time to investigate and look at that facility. I think we have a good sense of where we can go, but we want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, so we're going to try and make the best decision possible on that. I'm part of this board that makes that decision. OMU is looking at a host of ways to get out of the energy. In fact, they are out of the energy market. He's as much announced that, Mr. Nolte has. And so as a consequence of that, I think they recognize their mistake. They're moving in a good direction, and we need to work with them as partners, not only on behalf of keeping OMU solvent, but also keeping rates reasonable for the average working person in this community.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Finally up for this question, candidate Terry Stinson.
Well, the first part of this question is, do you support the city's current position on requiring dividends? Well, I don't think the city has a choice. They're going to have to, because the simple fact that our budget for this year is around $98 million. I don't know if you've ever looked at a budget online. It's 304 pages long. There's a lot of things you got to look for. And the reason why they're going to need that resource, or the dividends from both OMU and the Riverport, is to help pay for this. Just the Smothers Park alone, according to the 2014-15 budget, is going to cost around $947,000 total for upkeep. Of course, that includes personnel and all the things there. Last year, OMU's dividends were around $7 million. The taxes coming in and all the other things that are coming into this city is not enough. So, yeah, the dividends are going to have to continue. I agree with Commissioner Sanford about the Riverport, and also with Commissioner Glenn about the importance of the Riverport, because I don't have all the inside information. But I do know this, that is one of 8 in the entire world that is recognized by, I don't know, it's what it's called, the London whatever it is. And it's the most proficient one in the entire Ohio River. There's only 2 in the entire country that meet these standards. And yeah, they're going to, the Commission has no choice but to continue to receive dividends, because how are they going to pay for the rest of this? So that's where I stand.
Thank you, candidate Stinson. Again, we're coming to you live from the 4th floor of City Hall, our first of 3 debates, sponsored and produced by the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce. Wednesday night, we will have feature a debate and forum for the county commission candidates. And 1 week from tonight, on Monday, October 27th, we'll be hosting all of the candidates for the Kentucky House of Representatives, District 7, 12, 13, and 14. Our next question. The city is already committed to invest in many new projects, including the new Senior Citizen Center, the Advanced Technology Center Phase 2, the Bluegrass Center, the Transient Dock, Downtown Parking Garage, and others. How would you prioritize these projects and funding? And we'll begin with our rotating beginning points. Candidate Reggie Helm.
Well, let's see. Technology, right on, because that's the world. That should be number 1. Number 2 is the Bluegrass Center, because that's going to be mostly with private funds and just a little tax money. And the opportunities of bringing people from all over the world, I'm for that. The Transient Dock, I'm a boater. To me, that's just overboard. And getting close to being a senior, I'm pretty cool with that. And then, of course, you're going to have parking. You know, I wrote a song called Concrete Trees, but I'm also writing one where we're going to park our car, because it's really difficult when you try to come down here. And if you got any kind of disability or something like that, you know, it's hard to get around when it's, I had some friends call me and say, man, there's only one handicap spot down here, and I had to walk 3 blocks. And I said, you know, brother, I ain't in office yet, you know, so, but the Bluegrass Center is already funded. You know, how do you prioritize these and their funding? I just have to do, number 1, technology, 2, the center, 3, the senior, parking, and I'm not even for the dock, I'm sorry. That's it.
Thank you, Candidate Helm. Next up, City Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Looking at the list, definitely Advanced Technology Center, because that's a driver into our community of getting people educated and getting them working into jobs to help us fund these projects. Like I said, it all works together. They get jobs, they pay taxes, it comes in here, and we're able to fund certain things. But you have to prioritize, as you've said. The Bluegrass Center, I believe that would put a mark on Owensboro. I believe that's a very, very important thing that we need to do. If I have to get out and fundraise myself, I think that gives us an identity that we really need here in Owensboro. You talk about bringing people into town, the park, that's great, convention center and all those things. The Bluegrass Center gives us something that no one else in the country has. And when you have something like that, you can take advantage, and I believe it would bring people in it'll bring them in every day of the year. That's why the transient boat dock, I'm a boater. I have a dock. It's at Barkley. I know how much they are to take care of. That's why I always tell people there's something called price and cost. Price is one time, cost never goes away. And those things are very, very expensive to keep up. And number 2 about that is you can only use it 2.5 to 3 months out of the year. There's one sitting right down from the new hotel that Jack Wells and those guys are building that I could take 2 baseballs and throw, and I believe it's Matty Borman that owns it. Why wouldn't we let the private sector do the boat dock? Why would we do it ourselves? Because they'll put more people to work. It's very simple.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanford. Next up, candidate Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin.
Yes, I'm for the Senior Citizen Center. We need one for a long time to help the elderly people of this community. The Bluegrass Center maybe can draw some people in here, spend money, help pay for the Senior Citizen Center that people need. Now, I've been to the old Mundy Center. There's stuff down there need fixing, and maintenance part of it. When you build something, you got to do the maintenance. You can't let it go, or then you got to pay out more money to fix it in the long run. You fix small problems first, it won't become big problems. In a downtown parking garage, yeah, we need one. They should put one right underneath the convention center when we first built it. It'd eliminate the problem then, but they didn't think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Next up, City Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright.
I too agree with the Bluegrass Center. I also think that it is something that will bring people here. I was shocked when they had their convention here and people were here from Norway and all over the place. I had no idea that people from all around the country was coming to Owensboro to be set on that board of directors. So I do think that could be a calling card for us, that it would be something to make this a destination. And then the technical center, we are already committed to helping with building the technical center. So that's already on board. And parking, we do need parking downtown. But, you know, I think we as Owensboroans are spoiled that we're so used to pulling up in front of the place we want to go to and getting out and going in. You go anywhere in the country, you cannot pull up in front of the place you want to. You have to go in a parking garage, pay $10, and then walk to wherever you want to go. But I think that a parking garage is important and that we need that. And the senior center, he's talking about how it's deteriorating. That building's been there for 900 years, so that's why it's deteriorating. But I think we need to have a partnership with the senior citizens, like we did with the tennis group. You know, people have to have some skin in the game to appreciate what they have. And I think that's what we're trying to work on now with that. And as far as the transit dock, you know, I am really not an authority on boating. Don't own a boat. Been on one, a very nice one. But as far as knowing anything about whether Owensboro is the place for it or not, I don't know.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next up, City Commissioner Bob Glenn.
I think when it comes to looking at a wish list of projects, the first is that a couple of these are already going to be addressed even by this commission. It's true that the Advanced Technology Center Phase 2 is going to get built. It's going to get funded, partly through KCTCS, package grant that they've set up, plus the support of the community through the county and city, as I said before. So that's a given. We're going to do that. It's a great workforce development driver and a job creator. The second element that I think is important is the senior center. The age of the American population is rapidly increasing. We are at the end of the baby boom cycle. More and more of us are going to be senior citizens. And the senior citizens of today are energetic, intelligent, active, and collaborative. And that senior center, if we're going to build it, and we have the location and design all set, needs to meet their needs. It also needs to be a community center. But I think if we do nothing else between now and the next 2 years, that senior center needs to get built. We made that promise almost 4 years ago to those people, and we need to fulfill it. And why do we need to fulfill it? Because people who are considering moving to Owensboro will look at that as a resource. They'll look at it as a value-added item to this community, a reason to come and live here and retire here and invest in our community, whether they start a small business or merely live here with their grandchildren. The other element here is the Bluegrass Music Center. There's absolutely no doubt we need to do that, but I do think we need collaboration on that. Terry Woodward's done an excellent job, gone out there and tried to rouse the bushes nationally to raise the money. We need to get that done. It'll definitely be a center. As far as the river and the Transient Boat Dock, we are a riverfront community. It is clear from all the downtown development, we have not met the maximum capacity to use that as a resource. We just talked about the Riverport. Why would we want to disregard the opportunity for a transient boat dock if it's affordable? And I'm not sure that it is affordable, but it's worth looking into, and those are the only steps we've taken into account at this stage, is investigating the options.
Thank you, Commissioner Bob Glenn. Next up, candidate Terry Stinson.
Okay, the city, of course, has invested already into many of these projects. If we put them in the priority ties, as they ask here, advanced technology is the first thing. Education. You know, everybody says, hey, our kids go off to school and they never come home. Well, that's because 75% of people go off to school, get a job at where they went to school at. We've got to keep those here. Now, we've had the Western Kentucky University, which now offers the 4-year degree program. It's too early to see if it's really had an impact on us, but education is first. When I got through looking at the others, the downtown parking garage really amazes me in the sense that it should have been included in the Smothers Park deal. Reason why I say that, I was on the original steering committee, but we were let go for some reason after so much longer. But that wasn't taken into consideration and I have to take to disagree that, you know, everybody may be used to parking in front of the place they want to go to, but it's never been like that in Owensboro, at least not downtown. It's never been like that. The senior center, we definitely need that new senior center, because some of you in this room, I know, can remember when it was Lee Elementary School, or even before that, I don't know. But definitely they've already committed to that, and we definitely need to continue on and get that. The Bluegrass Center, yes, by all means. But we got to have a parking garage first. Where are they going to park? The transit dock, I would put that last on my list. Because if I was to look at this and if I had the funds to do all these things, this would be my list. Advanced technology, the senior center, downtown parking, Bluegrass Center, and the transient dock, if we lived in a perfect world.
Thank you, candidate Stinson. Finally, on this question, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley.
Well, you know, I could sit here and say, well, this is what I want, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's not about me. It's about what's fiscally responsible and makes sense, and who's worked the hardest to get the funding together to partner with us. Thank goodness for the county government. We've partnered on most of these, haven't we, Judge? And that's been a kickstart, but there's much more to go. I will say this, I'll agree with the ones thus far. I do think the Advanced Technology Center is the very most important, and I feel very optimistic that that's going to happen. Dr. Klauber has worked fiercely. He's established a lot of, you're shaking your head, he's established a lot of relationships outside of city and county. It's going to happen, and it needs to. It's a new wave of learning, not just for people who are non-traditional learners, but it's a kickstart for youngsters to know, hey, it's okay if you don't want to go to college. It's, you know, not everybody's meant to go to college, but let's learn about technical work that could make you, make you very successful and make you a good breadwinner and a good citizen. So yes, I think that's something that will happen, and I'm optimistic. The senior center, those folks deserve the best. I'm a little reticent that we haven't established the partnerships like we need to. The proactivity of that group needs to come on a little stronger. It needs to happen, but it's not going to happen unless we can get some partnerships established. City and county thus far are the ones who've stepped to the plate, and it's just not enough money, and we don't have any more to give. The Bluegrass Center, Terry has done an outstanding job getting out there. The mayor has done an outstanding job with the state to get some funding. I'm very optimistic we're going to get some state money for that. If that happens, that'll probably be number 2. The transient dock, it's another way to get to our community. We've got, rail, cars, walking. We've got bike racks that we're putting up down there. I think if we can establish a partnership with a private entity down there, that could happen. The parking garage, I do think there's some federal funds out there that we can obtain, and that could happen. But again, it's only going to happen if it's fiscally feasible.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley. Thank you, candidates. Again, finally, we have time for one more question. Then we'll have closing arguments. And again, those listening on WVJS, we want to thank WVJS for simulcasting this first of 3 live debates sponsored by the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce. Our final question number 5, looking forward, are there other capital projects or other social issues such as the proposed fairness ordinance that you would support? And up next in our rotation, City Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Yes, Kurt. I just wanted to roll back on the last question real quick. I think I left out the Senior Citizen Center, and I agree with Mayor Pro Tem. We have promised to do something for those people, and it's going to take some partnerships. I think we can get it done with a lot of hard work, but those people deserve that. Now on to this question. Capital projects. I am pretty much done with capital projects. There's only so much money to go around, and I think we need to fulfill what we've already promised. Like I said, I'm not going to go with any new projects until the ones that we've promised are complete. The fairness ordinance. This has been a kind of a hot topic up here a little bit, and I know people of all kinds of lifestyles, and I'm friends with a lot of people of all kinds of lifestyles, and I think what people do in their own home is their own business. But to be honest, I've had no one come to me and complain about anything of fairness. I think it's something that really this body doesn't need to be, if it's not a problem and people aren't coming to me, I don't want to pass ordinances just to pass ordinances. So at this point, until there something comes before me that I can see, at this point right now, I'm not in support of it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeff Sanford. Next up, candidate Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin.
Yes, I'm not really. I mean, if you don't have the money to do some of these projects, you can't just borrow and expect to pay back, because you got to pay a bigger return, and the money that come from that is from taxpayers. I don't believe we shouldn't have so many projects going on that we can't pay for all of them. Let's build one, finish it, then wait a little bit, then start again till we have enough funds in order to do things with. And the fairness ordinance, yeah, I mean, they come up with this. Everything was okie dokie. I mean, I don't understand that fairness ordinance, but it's just something they want to pass. I don't understand that, but we don't need it. I mean, everything working. You got loud noise. You just go there, ask them, turn it down. If they don't turn it down, then you call the police. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Martin. Next up, City Commissioner Pam Smith Wright.
The question is, looking forward, are there other capital projects? Looking forward, there are no other capital projects that I would support other than the ones we have talked about already. But as far as the fairness ordinance, and I hope the newspaper gets this correct this time, because it was misquoted what I said the first time we talked about the fairness ordinance. And what I said was, as an African American, I know what it's like to be discriminated against. And I don't want anyone to be discriminated against. And what that means is, no one. Just because you're short, you shouldn't be discriminated against. Just because you're white, you shouldn't be discriminated against. Just because you're not who everybody thinks you ought to be, you shouldn't be discriminated against. And that's what I said before. But I got call after call after call after they read what was in the paper and said that they thought that I was comparing being black with being gay. That's not what I said. I'm talking about being discriminated against. And the ordinance has not been written yet. We don't know what it looks like. We don't even know what it is. I think that right now everybody's getting all upset over something that hasn't even happened. So I need to wait to see what the ordinance looks like. I need to read it. There may be some things in there that I agree with, and there could be things in there that I disagree with. But my true answer is this. I don't want anyone to ever be discriminated against, because when it has happened to you, you know how it feels, and it hurts.
Thank you, City Commissioner Pam Smith Wright. Next up, City Commissioner Bob Glenn.
A year and a half ago, we went to Denver, and we, as a city, we were all joyous when we were recognized as an All-America city. What does it truly mean to be an All-America city? We claimed as a community that we valued diversity. And one of the greatest experiences I've had as a referee, a soccer referee at the high school and other levels, is refereeing a Burmese team during a tournament. Our community, we have a huge growing Hispanic population. We have people from all over the world coming here for special events. We are, if not already, a diverse community, and we need to respect diversity. And what does that mean? Well, what I think it means in terms of the fairness ordinance, we need to have a real community dialogue and discussion about this issue. We shouldn't sweep it under the rug. We shouldn't ignore it. We need to act like adults and say, all right, religious folks, let's come together with these folks who are supporting an LGBT ordinance and see if there's common ground. Do we really need it? Now, that's a reasonable question. We spoke with Mayor Fisher, the mayor of Louisville. They've had an ordinance since 1999. They've only had 165 complaints filed since 1999. So my only concern, and I think we have to be intelligent about using city resources to enforce this or put it in play, is there a need? That dialogue will determine that. But in terms of our attitudes toward anyone, I teach at the community college. Yes, folks, there are gay people in Owensboro. They're teaching. They own small businesses. They live next door to you. They're your neighbors. And you know what? I bet you like them. And so the bottom line is we need to reach out to everyone in this community and have that dialogue with respect, with honor. If you're truly a Christian, with love. And we need to address this issue and not sweep it under the rug and ignore it. The other thing is there are a host of projects that can be done without spending tax dollars. I've talked about the Safe Ride initiative to get drunk drivers off our roads. I want to see that manifested. I want collaborative efforts with the state to improve our road system, particularly while all the growth is going to occur on Highway 54. We need to be proactive with all that retail growth on 54. We're going to have quite a mess out there. So those are the things I would hope to achieve in a second term, and with your help and support, I hope to do that.
Thank you, City Commissioner Bob Glenn. Again, those just joining us, the question on the floor is, looking forward, are there other capital projects or social issues, such as the proposed fairness ordinance, that you would support? Next up, candidate Terry Stinson.
Okay, as far as capital projects, I have no idea what else is, if there's anything else planned. From what I hear, there's really not, because we have enough of them right now that we're trying to solve. On this with the fairness ordinance, a lot of debate has come out over this from different angles, primarily from religious point of view, but there's another angle that I look at that I would like to share with the little amount of time I've got. First of all, there's nobody in this room who wants to see anybody discriminated on anything, okay? And the other thing is a city ordinance the mode to use in something like this? We have hundreds of city ordinances. One even says you can't hit a golf ball in a public park here in Owensboro. Why? Because somebody did it. That's why they put it there. Most people don't know that, but you'd be surprised at some of the ordinances out there. Do we want to put it on the same level as that? And let's say we did. I have a couple of questions. First of all, who's going to enforce it? Second, who's going to determine that discrimination did occur? And if they did, what's the punishment going to be? Also, we forget that in Kentucky, you can be fired for no reason at all. That happened to me. I lost my job in Owensboro Public Schools because I was 6 months shy of 5-year tenure. But because I had a master's degree and 14 years of experience, they didn't want to pay me anymore. Was I discriminated against? You better believe it. But I dealt with it. Now, as far as this, my concern is that we have a Constitution in the United States that says everyone's supposed to be treated equally. And to get away from the religious point of view in this, we need to look at it logically. Is a city ordinance the proper mode to address this issue if you're going to address it? Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Terry Stinson. Next up, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley.
Okay, well, are there other capital projects? I am not done with any project that might come up through the pike that could be profitable for the city if it requires a small investment or an investment of some sort and will generate dollars that can be spent. I think we all should be open to such projects. So I never close the door or plant my feet in the sand on anything. It's always important to stay open-minded. As far as social issues, I do think that there are social issues out there that we already have much collaboration on, and they revolve around the community assessment plan that our hospital implemented. This is the second year, I believe, of it. The city's been involved with it. The county's been involved with it. A lot of your nonprofits have been involved, the schools, and they revolve around obesity, substance abuse, and access to care. And I think it's important that we stay focused on areas where we've got a lot of players. We even have groups, the same type groups in other counties who are on board with this. They had a summit last week that I attended, and it's great to see so many people working together to try to accomplish the elimination of 3 major issues. As far as the fairness ordinance, my late husband was a lawyer, but I think we're, over-enforced sometimes. Too many laws make me uncomfortable unless they're needed. I don't know that government needs to get involved with this. I had a good friend of mine asked me how I felt about it. And I told him, I hadn't seen any problems come to me directly, but he said, Debbie, as a gay person, I feel uncomfortable, and I'm uncomfortable about the way people treat me. And I said, I don't think a law is going to make that any better, but if it helps you, I love you as a human being. And I think if this just raises the awareness that we're all human beings and we can just be kinder and gentler with each other, it's accomplished what it needed to accomplish.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley. And finally, candidate Reggie Helm.
Yeah, I'd say on the capital projects, we need to make, I'm agree with Jeff here, we need to make work what we got going. And the maintenance costs, we've yet to feel the tug on our purse strings of the future of this, guys. And if we're this wealthy, we shouldn't have, we should be giving free busing to people instead of giving people from out of town free rides because they're intoxicated. Let's give free busing to people to go to work if we've got that kind of money. So I just, those are the kind of things we just need to hold back and make things work, and that's the key issue. And one project I'd like to see done is being a board member of Bicycle Owensboro, I'd like to see phases 2 and 3 done, because that's a way for people who can't afford bicycles to transport. Anybody can ride a bike. It's a health deal. I ride a bike. I'm a commuter, and you want to promote health and safety, but we need to educate both the driver and the cyclist. And growing up, I seen a lot of kids who are feminine or gay, and I even have relatives that have suffered some pretty harsh things. And you know what? It needs to be looked at and supported, I think. I can't go against the people I love because it's election time. I'm sorry.
Thank you, candidate Helm. I want to thank all the candidates. We are now going to closing comments. Each of the candidates will have 1 minute for a wrap-up of the debate and forum. And in going with our ever-changing going first, we'll start with candidate Joseph Martin. Mr. Martin.
As a city commissioner, I will bring efficiency, because I believe that every day I've seen that city workers and that's wasting the money. I mean, there can be more use out of the workers, putting them on a different job instead of having 4 or 5 in one job and only one guy really working. So I hope efficiency, transparency, we need more of that up here, because I don't see it yet. And I'm for solar energy, and we need to look in more, the city need to look in more for solar energy to help the citizens of Owensboro. That's what I want to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Martin. Next up with closing comments, City Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright.
Again, I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this forum. And tonight you have witnessed democracy in action. And you've heard from your candidates. And I ask that each person in the sound of my voice just do one thing for me. Whether or not it's for me, I ask you to please go and exercise your right to vote. It is so important that you vote. There are people in other countries that don't have this right, so I ask you to do that. But I will ask for your support, and more importantly, I will ask for your vote on November the 4th. I'm number 1 on the ballot, and I approve this message.
Thank you, Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright. For closing comments, City Commissioner Bob Glenn.
All of the great things that have occurred in Owensboro over the last 2 years center on one simple premise: bringing young people home and keeping the residents who are here, including our business people, residents of Owensboro. We want everyone to come home. You go to a university out of state or in state and get your training. We don't want you to leave. We want you to come home. And I think in the last 2 years, we've been able to develop projects and add value to this community that our young people will want to come home. But more importantly, I think we're a community as an all-America city that cares deeply. You look at all the institutions, from the Neblett Center to the Wendell Foster Center, to the great homeless work being done with homeless people and people with drug addictions. We are a caring community. And as your city commissioner, I will never forget those who are less fortunate than the rest of us. I will never forget that that glass is not only half full, which it certainly is. Our cup runneth over in Owensboro, but it's also half full for some. And I will never forget those people. As the son of a single mother struggling to pay the rent in the growing up years I went through, paying for college on my own, I know how tough it can be out there. And you need a city commissioner who will listen to you and be available. And if you vote for me on November 4th, I'm number 5 on the ballot. I will continue to work hard for you. Thank you so much for this forum and those of you who attended.
Thank you, City Commissioner Bob Glenn. Next candidate, Terry Stinson.
Well, again, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and all of you being here tonight, and those who are listening and viewing audience. I always want to say that for putting up with us tonight. You've had a chance to hear what each of us had to say about where we stand, even though this is very limited time. I hope you take this information with you on November 4th. I will tell you this, as City Commissioner, I promise I'll serve you with responsible leadership and with all the integrity I have. I'll always do my homework on issues. I will not commit to a project unless I have at least 2 things that I'm satisfied with. 1, is it this project in the best interest of the people of Owensboro? And 2, how are we going to pay for it? Also, I'll make myself easily available to anyone who wishes to talk to me as your city commissioner. I'll work for the citizens of Owensboro and not against you. And finally, I'll vote no to any increase in taxes as long as I'm your city commissioner. So I appreciate your vote November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Terry Stinson. Now with closing comments, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley.
Well, I think government should be run like a business. As a business owner, I always had vision. I had a plan. It always had to be fiscally sound. I remained flexible with the changes that would occur, and they do occur in our changing world. And I always put my employees first, and I think we need to put our taxpayers first. I have no agenda. I have no project to push through in this position in my tenure, but rather I have a broad vision of the city's potential, and I want to use my business outline to achieve that. I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself a nonpartisan facilitator who works towards transparency, inclusiveness, collaboration, partnerships, and win-win results. Not only on a local level, but a state and national level as well. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I would be honored to serve you another 2 years. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce, you folks who are out here tonight, the people watching on TV, but most importantly, the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Deborah Nunley. Next up, candidate Reggie Helm.
Hey, folks, I don't just represent the wealthy or the business owner or the professional or the highly educated. I represent the plain Jane and everyday Joe, the silent majority who live in a $20 an hour world. Most of them make just $9 an hour. Who've been beat down and hammered on, who think their vote no longer matters and their voice is no longer heard, who've lost all faith in all levels of government, and who've thrown their hands in the air and say, I give. Well, it's to you, silent majority, I speak to tonight. And I want you to throw your hands in the air again and say, I give. But say, I give a damn about my future. I give a damn about my grandkids' future. I give a damn about my great-grandkids' future. And this is my city, my state, my country, and I'm going to take it back. And I'm tired of a handful of people getting wealthy off my tax money while I starve. On Election day, you need to raise your vote and say, hey, what about us? So on November 4th, I ask you, I urge you, I beg you, I command you, awaken sleeping giant, and let them hear your roar. Go vote. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, candidate Helm. Finally, with closing remarks, City Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Thank you, Kurt, and I want to thank the Chamber also for having this event tonight. And I want to thank all of you guys for showing up, because like I said in I believe my opening remarks, if you want to get something done, you've got to stand up and start saying something. You have to let us know, or all elected officials. You have got to take the time to get involved. And as your city commissioner, I've enjoyed my 2 terms, and I'm running again, like I said, because of my business experience and my experience here in being fiscally responsible. It's a proven fact that there's only so much money, and there's a huge wish list, but there's only so much money to go around to do everything. And I think I have the decision-making skills to do the things that serves the most people, and I'll continue to do so. So just pull lever 2 on November 4th, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeff Sanford. Again, on behalf of the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce, we urge you to make plans to vote on Tuesday, November 4th. The election ballot is going to be one of the larger ones in recent years. I talked to the city clerk today. The polls, again, will be open from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Any person standing in line at 6 p.m. will still be able to vote on that evening. If you have any questions with regard to where you vote, or want to see a sample ballot for all of the candidates, you can contact the county clerk's office. Their number is 685-8434, and you may also click on www.daviscountyclerk.org. All city residents will be able to vote for up to 4 of the candidates that we've heard from tonight. And the Greater Owensboro, and by the way, you need to bring either a driver's license, a picture ID issued by the government, your social security card, or actually a credit card will work if it has the correct name on it, if, of course, you are registered. Now, the Greater Owensboro Chamber of Commerce will remind you what many of the candidates said, that voting is not just a right, it's a responsibility. And when our community, and the Chamber is proud to remind you of this, that when the community turns out to vote, it turns up the volume in City Hall, in Fiscal Court, in Frankfort, and Davis County. We traditionally, in these type of elections, get about 40% of the people that are registered to vote. And we'd like to see that much higher, and that's your responsibility. Join us next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, for our next debate at County Fiscal Court for the county commissioners. And 1 week from tonight, we will host the Kentucky House of Representative candidates at Owensboro Community College. Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to OCTV Channel 71, the City Television Cable Station, Channel 75, and our friends at WVJS Radio for simulcasting tonight's debate. And one more round of applause for our candidates and for you, our viewers. Thank you.